fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at PB04 Kamen Rider Geats Magnum Boost Set Heavy Painting Version and Fever Form Parts Set from the Revolve Change Figure line for Kamen Rider Geats. So again, this line has gone completely premium Bandai at this point, which is a bit of a bummer because it does make it more expensive. Also, it's the Magnum Boost Set and then the Freeform Parts Set. Why not just call it Magnum Boost and Freeform Parts Set? I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. So I know you might have been thinking to yourself, why don't I just get two versions, or two copies, I should say, of the original retail release, and I can just do, Magnum, or Boost that way. And that is an option, but this is going to give you a much nicer, updated version of Magnum Boost, so I guess they figured people weren't going to buy this set if it was just kind of the same thing again, and because it is a premium release, they gave it some more paint. So you can see, in particular, the Magnum Shooter 40X is now painted instead of just being completely white, which is kind of nice. It looks like there's some extra paint on the driver as well, but we'll get into all that. So we take a look at the top here. You see what is all included here. We have our updated version of Boost and Magnum. We have that updated Magnum Shooter 40X. Another one of Geats' scarf and helmet. I don't know if they're going to be different or not. And then you get the Fever parts here. So Magnum obviously has the orange eyes, but if you're going to be using it as the Fever version of the double Magnum, you need a Magnum with gold eyes, so that head's been included. Then, of course, we have the scarf, and then we have the Fever buckle. Now, I will say, when I tried to pop the belt piece off, I think the last time we had to do it was for the Twin Command buckle, it really makes that joint loose, which is kind of a bummer, so we'll see how it goes. But that is included here. So kind of a nice set, and I know a lot of people, I myself included, was after I bought this, I kind of thought to myself, I could have just gone without the scarf and gotten two of the retail release. So it is nice to know that it has been an updated version of Magnum Boost, so it should be better than the original. So we'll do a comparison and everything, plus we'll need that one to get our actual, double Magnum here. So I'm going to go ahead, get everything out of the packaging, and we'll take a closer look. So here's everything you get in the box, and we'll start doing some direct comparisons here. I'm going to move some of these accessories out of the way, mostly the stuff that has to do with the Fever form, just because this stuff kind of all has direct comparisons that we can make. So right off the bat here, we have the two versions of Geats' scarf, which are almost exactly the same, with the exception that the new one is painted on both sides, so that's nice. And it seems to be a little bit more of kind of a more bright, vibrant orange. I don't know how well that's coming up on camera. They're not super different. Obviously, the biggest difference is the paint on both sides, but that's nice. We'll put that off to the side. Real big difference with the Magnum Shooter 40X. You can see the previous one had no paint whatsoever. And again, it is the same mold, but now it's been painted. And it does look pretty sharp. Unfortunately, on this case, the paint does not make it over to the other side. So that's kind of a bummer, but it does look good. And even when we flip out the sniper barrel, you can see that that has been painted as well. So that really looks nice. I like that quite a bit. For the Geats helmets, again, they're pretty similar. Again, this is kind of a brighter, more vibrant orange, but from the front, they're pretty much the same. From the sides, though, you can see a little bit more paint there, which does look sharp. I like that quite a bit. So I think that looks pretty good there on the side. So this is the retail release, and then this is the new one. So now we will compare our two Magnum forms. So again, retail and the new one. I think it's interesting that, I don't know if they didn't do enough coats of paint here, but you can see on the collar and the jaw, it's definitely almost like a purplish, where this one they must have really caked on the white paint because it definitely looks white. So that's weird to me. I don't know what that's about. You can see it a little bit down here as well. The drivers, definitely, it looks nicer over here on the new one. And the belt has been painted silver where it was unpainted over here on this side. You can also see a little bit more paint here on the side. So the way the shoulder, or I guess bicep section I should say, you can see how it's just kind of, I think this is all white plastic here. Whereas this looks like it's black plastic that's been painted. So you can see it's not as white, and it actually kind of looks like individual armor pieces connected on there. As well as the little gun wrist set pieces. They flip out, and they've got some orange paint on them now, where previously there was nothing. So overall, I think that looks pretty sharp. I do like the improvements here to the arm, and I definitely like the belt and the driver. But having these pieces be like almost purplish is very strange to me. And I really think it's just because it needed another coat of white paint to really make it pop. And it just unfortunately looks like it did not get that. Also a little bit of paint here on the back, which is again that kind of purplish color. So I think when they're putting the white on the black, they just needed to do another coat. And unfortunately it just didn't happen. So that's kind of a bummer, but otherwise I think it does look pretty good when compared to the previous one. But I feel like the biggest differences are here on our new version of Boost, because they actually put some paint here on the exhaust pipes here on the, well, depending on what configuration you have, the forearm or the leg. And that looks really sharp. I think that looks really, really good. A little bit of silver here on the shoulder pad or the knee pad. The heads look pretty much the same. The chests are pretty much the same. The driver does have a little bit, they tried to do kind of like a darker red, and that didn't really come through, but there's that little bit of white there. It did actually have the gold trim, which I didn't remember on the old version. And then again, the belt is painted as opposed to the original release. And then we do have some paint on the back as well. And you kind of see the same thing here where this definitely needed another coat of paint. It's not as bad on the face, but you can kind of see it a little bit on the collar as well. So they're painting this black plastic and they're just not applying enough coats to make the color pop. So unfortunately, it's coming through darker. You can kind of see it a little bit on the old one here as well. They did a nice job on the face, but the collar and the back, they did not put enough paint. But I guess they have a budget to work in. What are you going to do? But overall, I do think these two new versions are nice. They definitely do have more paint than the original. And just overall, it looks pretty sharp. I will put them into Magnum Boost configuration in a moment. But I just want to show off our last three components here. So we have the Fever slot buckle. We have, again, gold painted here on the belt. So we can swap that out. And you can see this joint here. It just really doesn't, like once you kind of pop it on and off a few times, these don't stay out as far as they should, and they kind of get compressed in, and that makes it loose. Here is the Fever slot head. Again, we have a little bit of kind of a purplish color because that really could have used another coat of white paint, but otherwise looks good. And then we have the extra scarf piece here, which will come into play later on. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and do a new Magnum Boost with Geats now that we have the fully painted version. So here are our two versions of Magnum Boost. This is the normal retail release, and this is our new premium Bandai version. Right off the bat, I do think this one looks a little sharper. The one thing I will say, the most notable difference for me, this helmet fits on and stays on much better. It's a lot more snug when you pop it on. It's not going anywhere. It's really nice and tight and firm on there, and I like that a lot, because this first release was kind of notorious for this just always kind of popping on, and like no matter how much I would put it on, it didn't really want to stay. I mean, it stays enough, but this one kind of almost like snapped in, which was really, really nice. But yeah, overall, like I said, just looks a little bit sharper with the boost, you know, the exhaust pipes here and the kneecaps. The belt being painted is kind of nice. The little bit more detail here in the bicep area. Most of the rest of it is kind of the same, but overall, I do think this looks nice, and of course, the Magnum Shooter 40X is a big difference. So, yeah, I definitely think this new premium version is an improvement. Not to say that the original was terrible, it certainly wasn't, but it is having some difficulty standing for me there. There we go. But yeah, overall, I do think this looks nice, but, you know, does it blow this one out of the water? I don't think I can say that. This was already pretty good. But this one does have some notable changes in additional paint and does look a little bit sharper. Alright, so to make the Magnum Fever form, I've already gone ahead, taken the helmet off, popped the head off, and switched it with the head that was already on there. So this is the Fever buckle head that they give you for Magnum. So I've switched those out. It's just a ball joint. You just pop it off, pop the other one right on. And then I've gone ahead and put the helmet back on. And then we're going to go ahead and leave our scarf here. We're going to disconnect the boost piece and then slide this off and put that off to the side. And then what I've done with the old version of Magnum is I've had to disconnect this piece, which, where did that end up? So how this works, it's just this little connection here, connecting into this piece right here, and then you actually have to take this off as well and then snap this onto the new one. Now luckily, so far, knock on wood, the connection seems okay. It's not as loose as the last time I tried to do this. And then we'll just go ahead and slide this on, and then we will... Did I put this upside down? I might have put it upside down. No, I didn't. I'm going to take this scarf off just because it gets in the way a little bit here. So pop this on. This should go up. There we go. That'll peg into place, and then slide that down. And now we will reapply the scarf, and that just pegs in there. So I know the Fever buckle is probably supposed to go on the other side, so apologies. But I wanted to risk it with the old version of Magnum. Since I have this new version of Magnum, I didn't want to try out the joint in case it did get loose. But it seems to be okay. So please bear with me that it probably should be on the other side. The last thing to do is take our new scarf piece, which unfortunately doesn't really stay on all that well. I wish it had a way to click into place like this helmet seems to. But you just kind of drop it on here. Now it does kind of have little indentations. You can kind of see right there and here on the back. But nothing really like pegs into place. What you can kind of do is kind of lift the head up and use the chin to try to kind of keep it in place. Which of course now it doesn't want to do for me, I think because I switched the head out. So bring this down and then try to use the head to kind of sandwich it down into place. It doesn't work perfectly, but it's okay. I guess, is this supposed to go? Yeah, I'm not really sure. With the two scarves, it's weird, but he is supposed to have both scarves in this mode. I don't know if this is supposed to... Is this supposed to go over the second scarf? Maybe? Maybe that's the key? I don't know. It just kind of sits there. It doesn't really stay on as well as I'd like it. And then we can put that back on. So there you go. There is your Fever Magnum form. So he's got two versions of Magnum on both the top and the bottom. We got the Fever buckle, and then we got both scarves going here. Kind of the beginning of the multi-tailed fox. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. I like it. I think it works. I like the extra headpiece. I think that's pretty nice that they included that. Got the good version of the Magnum Boost 40X. Not the Magnum Boost, the Magnum Shooter. But honestly, it's not bad. It works. I think it looks pretty cool. It's neat to have him have both Magnums. And it's a nice way to incorporate the previous release. So it's not like you're completely replacing that, because you do need that in addition to what you get in this set. They're kind of counting on you already having that initial release, which again, if you're collecting this line, kind of makes sense that you would have the very first retail release, the one that's quite possibly the easiest to pick up at this point. But it is nice to have the painted belt, and I do think this buckle looks pretty sharp. And even though the scarf, I mean, honestly, once you have everything on there, the head and the helmet piece, you know, it's enough to kind of wedge that into place that it's not really going anywhere, so it's not too bad. But yeah, overall, oh, now he's going to fall forward on me. Of course he is. That is the one thing. The only complaint I really have about this line, because they have to be both arms and legs, the legs end up with way too many joints that they wouldn't normally have. Joints that normal humans don't really have. And as a result of that, it sometimes can be a little difficult to stand. But once you get it in a good pose, I mean, yeah, that actually looks pretty good. And then real quick, here is the Fever Boost form. So having Boost on both the top and the bottom. I think it looks pretty cool. Again, I think the scarf looks pretty nice. Sits on there decently well once you have everything else in place. And I really do like the newly painted helmet. I think that works. And it just connects to the head so much better than the old one did. But yeah, I think this is cool. I think I like the Fever Magnum a little bit better than I like Fever Boost, but I do appreciate that we can put it together here. And I mean, you could use this for anybody. Really, you could use Fever Magnum for anyone as well. You would just have to use the helmets that you have from other releases, but you absolutely can use this with any of the riders. But yeah, this looks pretty cool. So honestly, I think this is a pretty solid release. I kind of was just expecting it to be a pack-in of the original release with the extra boost parts, but they really did go above and beyond and put a lot of extra paint into it. The Magnum Shooter 40X, I think in particular, looks really sharp painted. Would have been nice if they painted both sides, but they painted the side that matters, and that's what really counts. I like having the scarf painted on both sides. I think that's really nice. It is a little weird how a couple of these, paint applications, like most notably in this abdomen section and kind of the shoulders, which are covered by the scarf right now, and around the bottom of the jaw, they could have used another coat of white paint because the black showing through a little bit. Not a huge deal, but with this being premium, that would have been nice. The belt being painted silver also, I think, looks really sharp. So it's nice. Even if you're not a huge fan of the Fever forms, it's still a better version of Magnum Boost. So if you just want a nice version of Magnum Boost for your shelf, this is kind of the better version with a lot more paint and just looks sharp on its own. But now you have the ability to do these Fever forms as well. I think Magnum Fever, Fever Magnum, whatever the correct order. I think this is my favorite of the two. I don't really like Fever Boost all that much. I mean, it's fine. I just think this works a lot better. And I think with the gold, it looks really sharp. Now, earlier I did say that you could use this for any of the riders, and I guess technically you could, but the scarf, I believe, is specific to Geats's Fever forms. All the others have something else doubled. So, like, whatever their kind of signature piece is, it gets doubled with the Fever buckle. So, Geats now has 2 scarves. Buffa has 2 skirts. Nago has 2 bracelets on each hand. Punk Jack gets extra capes. So all those pieces are not included. It would have been nice, even if they would have just done it for like the main couple riders. I mean, obviously we saw the main 5 all use it, but even if they could have just given us like, the extra sash piece for Buffa or the extra leg piece for Tycoon, just a couple little extra things. Unfortunately, that stuff wasn't included. So you really can only truly pull off the Fever form for Geats, but it still looks pretty good, and I do like it quite a bit, and I think this release turned out pretty great. It's a bummer that it's premium, but premium did allow them to go in and give us a lot more paint, which I really do appreciate. I think it looks pretty sharp. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.